another Wednesday. I'm glad and grateful and excited to see you all out here, especially considering the weather that we experience over the last couple of days. I think everybody was starting to think that the winter was going to be rather mild and we were going to get away without having to do a whole lot of shoveling and stuff. But the Lord had other plans. And so I am excited to see you all have pressed your way this evening and to be here again. And we're gonna hit it and quit it so that we can get out of here before the precipitation begins again this evening. But I am glad that each and every one of you are here. A few quick reminders just before we kind of jump in. Of course, want to take an opportunity to welcome those of you that are joining us online tonight. I want to say good evening to you. Thanks to you for joining us. We are glad that you are here. As always, there's the opportunity to review the notes from previous Bible study lessons in our archive at notes.churchonpurpose.org, which go along with any of the Bible study videos that you can find on our website at live.churchonpurpose.org or on our archive, which is on our Facebook page or our YouTube channel, where you can find an entire archive of every sermon, every Bible study that we have been through here at Church on Purpose. We want to remind you, of course, that at the conclusion of our conversation tonight, that you will have the opportunity to gather together in groups of 3 for our period of reflection. And at the conclusion of our reflections, we will walk through our decision questions and then pray out. So be intentional about identifying what sticks out to you the most from our lesson tonight, and then what you're going to do differently this week based on what you hear. All right. So we are continuing our journey as we've kicked off this year. Our overall theme for this year and focus for this year, of course, is yeah. I'm wondering why y'all ain't know what it was. Y'all act like y'all ain't know. I mean, only every sermon that I preached so far has started with that title. But all right, praise the Lord. Yes, our theme and our focus for this year is God specs, and our focus and intention this year is to increase our ability to be able to see things the way that God sees them. If we can do a better job of that, then the lows won't seem so low. The highs will be that much more awesome. We will have a better understanding of who we are and a better appreciation for who we are and for what we've been through. And so I'm looking forward to how we continue to grow through that. But to begin our year, we have started off with a little mini series called Connecting Church. And the purpose of Connecting Church is to give us the opportunity to be able to sit down and connect some dots about our church. To begin this year, really understanding how Church on Purpose works and who is helping to guide that and helping to steer that and where we're going and how we plan to get there. And so we were blessed to be able to kick the year off with our Kingdom Kids coordinator, Janae. Then last Wednesday, we gathered and we heard from our stewardship coordinator, Cynthia. And tonight, we are going back to the babies. And so tonight, we are going to have a conversation with our Kingdom Kids Nursery captain, who is Miss Ashli Carlock. Now, in a second, I'm assuming she's going to walk out here and sit down. And so y'all can just applaud when she makes her way. Ashli Carlock, everyone. Ashli Carlock. Welcome to Jonathan and Friends. Have a seat, please. Q, can you give me the headset, please, so I can switch this lapel out? No, it's not the pack. It's the mic itself. I just need the headset mic. So welcome to Jonathan and Friends. It's so good to see you. Your mic's not on? Just slide the little thing over until it's on. We should have practiced this ahead of time. We'll do better next week. Yes, it is on. Thank you, David. That's some real official tech running right there. So again, we're excited about being able to have this conversation, and again, the point of these conversations is to learn more about one another and what motivates us and what drives us, and to learn about not only what the various components of Church on Purpose do, but also how we can plug in, how we can assist, how we can pray. And so I'm excited because we have this opportunity to be able to understand who our leadership is, why they do what they do, and how they plan on doing it. And so, as I mentioned, joining us here on Jonathan and Friends tonight is our Kingdom Kids Nursery captain, Ashli Carlock. And this is going to be an exciting conversation because you all are going to hear a little bit more. I mean, you already heard it 2 weeks ago, but you're going to hear a little bit more about some things that are going to be happening this year in our church. And so, welcome, Ashli.
Hello, everybody.
All right, that's the point where you all applaud. I really am gonna get some applause signs next week because y'all just in there like we can put it on the screen. We can flash it on the screen. Yeah, there we go. We gonna figure it out. We gonna work it out.
Lord.
They gonna help you out tonight. Okay, you got a microphone. But you still got to talk loud. So, Ashli,
Yes.
how are you today?
I'm good.
Wonderful. Well, I'm glad to have the opportunity to be able to sit here and talk to you a little bit about who you are and kind of what you do here and where we're going from there. But the best place to start is always the beginning. So, kind of tell everybody a little bit about yourself, about where you're from, and yeah, let's start there.
Um, well, this is home. I've been here my whole life. I wasn't born here. I was born in Kansas City, Kansas. My parents moved here, I think, when I was about maybe two or three. And I've called Omaha home a long time. I moved around a lot when I was a kid growing up. I attended several different elementary schools, so I never really felt like I had a lot of um, friends or stability growing up. But I graduated from Benson High School. um,
There are multiple fighting bunnies in the house tonight? Or is it? No, it's the Mighty Bunnies, right? Okay, we're going to have a conversation after church about the Benson High School mascot.
don't do us like that.
I'm sorry.
Don't do us like
But,
that.
okay. There's only one bunny rabbit that played basketball, and that was in Space Jam.
Really?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Um, Mesa was cool. It was a good school. I graduated in '07 and
1907?
2007. That ain't right, coach. After graduating from high school, I took a few courses at Metro in early childhood education. I did not finish. And in the process of becoming a young woman, I have worked with children. I've been working with them for, I think it's going on a little over 11 years. Um, my background, of course, is in early childhood education. I started off as an aide for a really, really large child care center, and then just kind of worked my way up, working as a teacher. I did that for a little while, and then I stepped away and did visitation work, working with families and children and things like that. And then eventually, my heart went right back to where it started, and worked as a lead toddler teacher for about 3 years. And again, eventually just kind of working my way up, eventually working as an assistant director for another pretty large child care center. And after my departure there, I wind up at Nelson Mandela, currently working there as a paraprofessional.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that entire resume. Would you like to list your best skills?
Oh my
Are you
God.
proficient in Microsoft Office Suite?
Just a little.
Okay. Okay. All right. All right. So obviously working with children is something that you've been interested in, something that's been close to you for a long time. But how did you, as you were growing up, you said after high school you took classes in that arena. How did you identify that was the space that you wanted to make a difference?
Um, I don't know. I've always had this like weird, strange connection with children. Even growing up as a kid, always had somebody's child. Um, and as I got older, I don't know if I necessarily knew it like right off the bat. And a really close person to my heart, I feel like is somebody that kind of helped me to identify what my strength was or what I was really good at. It was just something that I was doing and I was really good at that I hadn't really paid attention to. Corey told me, who was my nephew, passed a little over a year ago, but he helped me to identify the fact that I was really good with children. I've always kind of had that like weird connection with kids, just being able to connect with them, and be able to sometimes get them to do things that other adults and people couldn't get them to do, which is behaving or being still or whatever the case may be. And I had brought it up to him at one point that I had wanted to um, open up my own center or open up my own business, and he was kind of the first person to push me in that direction as far as, well, maybe you should try doing so and so before hopping into this to see if that's really something that you can see yourself doing
Hmm.
for the next several years or just something that you're actually really good at.
So talk a little bit about how the specificity of your connection, because uh, everybody's not great with every age group of children, and unfortunately, a lot of times in church, we're like, here, this is the youth ministry, and so you got like everybody from 36 to 36 weeks, and you're supposed to organize practical ministry for that, but there are different needs at every stage of development along the journey. And so of course here at Church on Purpose, you serve in the capacity of the Kingdom Kids nursery captain. So why that nursery age? Why is that important to you?
I don't know. I've always just really enjoyed that age. Starting, and honestly, when I started, that's the age group that I started with. I started off in the nursery, and again, as I worked my way up, I went from age group to age group, um, and just even now working with second graders. Um, I love older children, and I think they're amazing, and they can teach you so much about yourself. But they're kind of already in a space to where,
They cuss and fight back.
basically,
Hmm.
yeah, their attitudes are kind of already set. Which is great. You kind of know what you're dealing with and where they're going, and how you can help guide them in the direction they're already going.
Hmm.
But when they're small, they're still so teachable, I
Hmm.
guess is the best word that I can think of. You're not trying to mold them and make them into little yous, but you really get a chance to see, what their personalities are going to be like and which direction they are actually going in. And you get a chance to play a part in helping this child grow and move in the direction that, God has already set for them. And I think when they're still little like that, they're already like little sponges. They take in and they absorb pretty much anything that you show and tell them. And I've just always really enjoyed working with that age group more than I have so with older children.
Yeah. Janae and I know very well about that whole sponge thing, don't we, Janae? Yeah, we have a tape recorder in our house. Actually, we have a couple of tape recorders in our house with two legs, and two arms. Um, but I think that's how the Lord provides accountability for us as parents to make sure that we are living consistent lives. Because if you ain't, they're sure enough put you on Front Street in
Yes.
public. So,
No shame.
anyway, not talking about the children. So, in your experience and your years working with that particular age group, what do you believe are some of the most important elements to being able to serve our babies? And I know you like to refer to them as the itty
The
bitties,
itty bitties.
right? So,
Um, I don't know. I'm trying to break that question down in my head. Um, I don't know. I know we've had several discussions as far as like what we want them to learn here in church or what we would like for them to do. And I think I would like to continue to be able to show them how important it is to be able to sit in church and be able to sit still and take in what's being learned and what's being taught. And I know that that was something that we also, again, also discussed that was important for you, that children need to be a part of what's going on in the sanctuary instead of separating them and, like you said, having youth ministry or having this going on over here, but really making them a part of what's already going on and teaching them, how valuable it is to be a part of a church community. And as they grow up and as they become young adults or, teenagers and things like that, they already kind of have a strong foundation to stand off of as far as even building a relationship with God outside of somebody teaching them or showing them, but kind of walking in that direction because they've already been walking in it for so long. And I feel like it's important to start with that age group because, again, they're like sponges. They soak up everything, they pick up on everything. And as they do that, they're just going to continue to grow into that.
So let's kind of back up a little bit. We kind of started talking about ministry here, but before we get into more specifics about what the nursery ministry looks like here at Church on Purpose, let's talk a little bit about your own journey of faith, because obviously, being a leader in church, you have demonstrated a degree of maturity in your faith to be able to serve through leadership. And so talk a little bit about your journey, about how you came to faith and how your faith has grown and developed over the years.
For me, it's definitely been it's been a lifelong kind of journey. I started when I was about JoJo's age as far as coming to church. I've been trasping in behind my mom, going back and forth to church for as long as I can remember. I grew up in it. That's pretty much all I've ever really known. But I believe I first gave my life over to Christ at 8 is what's popping into my head. Is when I got my first baptism and all of that. And then as I got older, I had what a lot of people experience, your first form of church hurt. I experienced it. Some of it, from what I learned, is because I had cut my hair. I had grew up in a church where you kind of wore particular things and had to dress a specific way and maintain a certain kind of appearance. And as I got older and started changing and becoming my own, I decided that I wanted to do something different and cut my hair and experience that form of hurt from one of the leaders in the church. And after experiencing that and kind of having that negative setback, I stepped away from church for a little while. I went through the whole rebellious, I don't want anything to do with church people or going to church. I don't think I ever really disconnected myself from the Lord. I feel like my relationship with Him didn't change, but it didn't grow either. So I eventually found myself right back where my mom was at. She had separated herself from that church also and had started going somewhere else. And because I had been following her for so long, I hadn't quite formed my own relationship with God, so to speak. I, again, started following her. I started attending
No names.
I started attending the church that she was attending, and I attended that church for
Oh wow.
about 5 or 6 years. I went for a while, and after I left there, I felt like the Lord was telling me it was time to go, or it was time to go deeper in my faith, and I felt like it wasn't happening there. So I prayed about it. I talked to my pastors at the time about it, and they kind of wanted to know why I was leaving, and I honestly didn't know the exact reason why the Lord was telling me that I needed to leave. Left there, decided to go to another church. I went there for a little over a year. Again, decided that I was going to give my life back to Christ. I got baptized again, and yeah, I attended that church a little over a year, and started working at Mandela. And my first encounter with Church on Purpose was through David. David came up to me he told me before giving me the wristband that his parents had a church, and kids kind of tell you stuff and like you pay attention, but not really because they tell you stuff all the time. But he told me about the church, and one day he walked up to me, he gave me a wristband. I held on to this wristband for forever, and it actually sat on my nightstand for a really long time. And I would wake up, I would see it, just never really paid any attention to it.
Mm-hmm.
And one morning, I woke up, and the Holy Spirit wouldn't let up about coming to this church. And I'm just like, I already go to a church. I've already decided to give my commitment, my service to another church. I'm good where I'm at. He wouldn't leave me alone, but I went on ahead and got up because he wouldn't let up, and came to church on purpose when we were still located in the house. It was very sketchy. I was very concerned about.
She just called our house sketchy.
It was. I had never had an experience where I had.
It was upstairs.
Right.
Now, if you think the upstairs was sketchy, you ain't never had church in the basement.
Lord.
I'm sorry. Go ahead and tell your story. I'm gonna stop interrupting you. I'm being a bad host right now.
It was very concerning. I had never been to a church where it was located inside of a home before.
Mhm.
So when I pulled up, and I was
Sketchy
just like,
Baptist Church.
yes,
Mhm.
it's inside of a home. What's really going on? I don't know if I heard the Holy Spirit right. I'm not sure at this point.
What would you have done if we served Kool-Aid?
I probably would have. I was gonna say I probably would have.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I probably would have drank it, but I came in, and Miss Cynthia and Miss Janae, they welcomed me as soon as I walked in the door. Super friendly, just amazing, just an amazing atmosphere. And the overall concern that I had when I first pulled up to the house completely left me. I was able to come in and worship, and I hadn't felt at home really like that since I was about 15, leaving the church that I grew up in. And that was a strong connection for me because I hadn't felt that way in a long time. Even though I had been to other churches and had different experiences and things like that, I hadn't really felt connected in a really long time. And I walked in pretty much that day. And again, it's been it's been a year, or coming up on a year, and I have been coming ever since. So it's been a journey from where I started or what I knew to know about God, and then throughout all of that, like I said, I went away from Him, never really disconnected myself from God, but I don't feel like I was growing at the capacity that maybe God was calling me to. And also coming here, I've gotten a chance to begin to deepen and build more of a relationship with God that I was already on, and the direction that He had me going in. But I didn't feel like I was going at the rate that maybe He was calling me to.
Mm-hmm.
So, no. Okay.
Can you believe it? It's actually almost been 2 years.
Oh, it has.
Spring will be 2 years. We were in David's first grade class. David's in third grade now.
That's weird.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Wow.
Yeah. But I think that is amazing just to speak to the amount of growth that you've been able to see and experience in that period of time, for us to not only have the opportunity to observe how you carry yourself and how you work and serve with children in your time here at church, but also to be able to witness it and learn about from a child's perspective what that interaction is like, which is extremely important when you're talking about being able to create an environment that's conducive to the advancement and development of our children. So you talked a little bit about how you came to church on purpose, and of course you were here for a while, probably about a year, before we started talking about this whole idea of serving in leadership. So talk a little bit about about how that transition happened for you, and just kind of what was going through your mind during that time.
Um, I know it had been brought up a few times to me about whether or not I had been interested or had ever crossed my mind about being a part of leadership. I hadn't. I had only really, I don't know, served as far as serving in church. I had never served at that capacity before. I thought it was super exciting. I thought it was a great blessing to even really be considered for something like that, because it opens up more doors for you to grow on levels that you probably don't feel so comfortable at, um, feeling as if you maybe are not what's the word, adequate
Mm-hmm.
enough to be able to serve at that level or at that capacity. But when you and Janae came to me about serving on the leadership team, I was really excited about getting a chance to do something and also be a part of something that was doing so much for the community and that had also begun to impact my life in such a powerful way. You guys also made it very clear, kind of what you were wanting and what you were expecting, and also made it very clear how I could make an impact on my own, and what I could bring to the leadership team, and not so much just kind of like, well, this is what you're going to be doing, this is what you need to do to make it work for the church, but really making it easy for me to bring what I'm good at and what I am passionate and what I love to something that's already great. So it was a pretty easy transition to make without feeling a whole lot of pressure about what I didn't do or what I didn't have or what I couldn't do.
Hmm. So talk a little bit about that, that kind of special sauce that you bring to Kingdom Kids Nursery, to the itty bitties. Talk a little bit about what you've tried to do, what you see, the kind of potential that you see there, and we'll talk about what's happening later on this year later. But just kind of talk about your time serving in your current role and current capacity. Talk a little bit about what you have, what you tried to produce, and how you tried to help the church to grow in that area.
Um, I guess I will say just kind of filling in the need that I feel necessary. For a while, and even still, we had a lot of parents coming in with a lot of smaller children, and sometimes it can be embarrassing. Sometimes it can be overwhelming for a parent to be sitting in the sanctuary and want to continue to listen to the sermon or want to continue to listen to a message, but not be able to do that because they got a crying baby, or a child has had an accident, or has some sort of issue that needs to be taken or addressed outside of the sanctuary. But in the midst of being able to do that, that means that you have to step away, and that means you're missing bits and pieces of the message.
Mm-hmm.
So really, really trying and really have tried to make myself available to the families and the mothers here that have smaller kids that need the assistance or that need the extra help or need the diaper change, so I can continue to listen to the message, or can you help me out because I'm a little flustered with my little one, and I really just want to sit and hear what it is that God has to say to me without being interrupted, and just really trying to provide that little bit of help or that little bit of peace, while also allowing the babies to be able to stay in here so they can stay connected, but also allowing a bit of freedom for the parent to be able to sit and maintain and also receive the word of God like they intended on doing when they first got to church.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to be able to learn different ways to deepen that, as far as learning different ways and different things that I can bring into the sanctuary for kids to do to help them stay connected. Again, those are some things that we have talked about as well.
Mm-hmm.
But really figuring out different ways to really keep them engaged and inside the sanctuary, as far as like what they can do and how they can also bring their feedback in, besides what we do is at the end of service, as far as reflection.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like that's what I've brought so far. I don't know what God is calling me to next or what all He wants me to do
Hmm.
going forward. But I feel like that's something that I've been able to help with thus far.
Cool, good stuff. So before I move on with my next question, does anybody have any questions for Ashley?
Um, that was a good, really good question. That was a great question, and it hit close to home for me. Um, I've had that happen a couple times where I had been told that I couldn't do my job or that I didn't have the capacity to do something or maintain something because I didn't have any children. But I honestly believe too that this is a gift and that it was something that was given from God. So because it was a gift and because it was something that was given from God, He equips me to be able to do and to say and behave in, appropriate ways or manners to be able to do my job or to love on a baby that don't belong to me or to um, just kind of push them in ways that sometimes I have to push myself in the same manner. So I don't, and that's something that I have clung to for a really long time. I believe highly in education and people that desire to do that. I believe that it's wonderful, but I feel like you don't necessarily have to have a degree or you don't necessarily have to have something to be passionate about it or to be good at it. Just love what it is that you do. If you love what you do and you're passionate about what you do, regardless of what it is, and again, God is somewhere in that and He's connecting you to that, then it's going to always work out for your good. It might challenge you and you're going to always have probably obstacles and things that you're going to have to go around. But again, He's going to give you the know how or the knowledge to get around it and put supportive people in your life to help push you and encourage you to do what it is you're supposed to do.
Dropping nuggets. Any other questions? So along those lines, church period isn't super popular socially in our world today. Church leadership brings a different degree of scrutiny in our society today. So, so how do you reconcile being a young adult, serving and operating in church leadership? How do you manage those two, and what are some of the obstacles um, that you have encountered on your journey to developing as a leader in the faith?
Um, I try to find ways that I can connect to whether it's youth or whether it's um, an older person. I try to find ways that I can connect to them. And so far with youth or like teens, um, I try to find out where they are right now in the present because I can't talk about what happened before I met you or something that you did 2, 3 days or even a month ago. And I can only try to encourage you as far as what we believe God is calling you to as far as the future. And I tend to have, even within my own family, a lot of the teens and the younger people kind of come to me and ask me for advice and things like that. But I try to explain to them what God has done for me and how He has brought me through certain obstacles and certain situations where I felt like I couldn't overcome it or I couldn't do it or I had so many things against me to where I just felt it was never going to be possible or never work. and then also have a constant heart of repentance, showing them that it's okay to, you know, to fail. It's okay to fall down. It's okay for you to not get it right all the time, but that's a part of walking with God. And
God bless you
I didn't know if it was gonna be a
and
sneeze or
us.
a cough, but didn't I'm sorry. Continue to try to show them how to be themselves, be able to have a repentant heart, and then also that's where I was going. That it's a part of walking with God, or building your relationship with God. And like you said, as far as like socially, sometimes it it don't leave a lot of room for you to have a relationship with God, if that makes any sense.
Hmm.
Because it's not something that's widely talked about. It's not something that's super popular. It's not something that everybody's, ranting or raving about it in, as far as being a team. But um, I don't know. I guess, go back to what I was saying. I try to relate to them where they're at and try to make that connection to them somewhere, I guess, on that level, and try to understand where it is that they're going, so that I can encourage them in that manner.
So this year uh, presents some new opportunities, as we talked about 2 weeks ago. Of course, with how the Lord is moving and working in Janae's life, she has responded to um, a deeper and more mature level of her calling, by now being redirecting her focus this year to beginning to focus on the women in our community. With that, of course, it leaves a vacancy with our Kingdom Kids, and uh, of course, the opportunity uh, to continue in leadership was extended to someone who was already leading in that capacity. So, talk a little bit about how you are feeling about that transition, and tell us a little bit about some of the hopes that you have for Kingdom Kids moving forward.
I have some really, 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 really big shoes to fill. Janae has done an amazing job setting a foundation for me to stand on or to build off of. She has really gotten a chance to show me that you can really connect children to what it is that they're doing, and for them to enjoy what it is that they're doing. I don't really remember as a kid. I don't really remember enjoying church in that capacity that much. But when I started coming here, the kids genuinely seem like they enjoy what it is that they're doing. It seems like they genuinely enjoy connecting with the other children that are here, but also they're engaged in what it is that they're doing, whether it's an activity, a lesson, a song, plays and things that they've done here. They seem to really, really enjoy what it is that they're doing, and I don't feel like they seem like they're being forced to do something.
Mm.
We're at church, this is what you're supposed to be doing type situation. And I can only hope that I can continue to bring in lessons and activities and structured activities for them to do that keep them on their toes or keep them engaged in service, or whether we're outside of here, just really continuing to build off of what it is already Janae has already started, and just finding more ways that I feel like will enhance it by bringing in what works for me and what I've learned over the years work for children,
Hmm.
and just things that they're really, really interested in. So I believe, and that's something again she's already started, but getting a lot of their feedback on things that they would like to see happen, things that they want to do, things that they feel like would keep them engaged in church, and then just continuing to build off of that and bringing in more of that.
Excellent. Any questions for Ashley? Any clarification about Kingdom Kids or anything like that? Go ahead. Do you ever see Miss Ashley at school? Is she the same person at school that she is in church? Ah, okay, okay. Well, kudos to you. The children are watching, and you're doing good to this point. So keep up the great work. So long term, and in a minute we'll have an opportunity to close out. Um, but long term, with your heart and your passion for children, what are some of the things that you hope to see developed in our children here at Church on Purpose?
A love for God. Um, I feel like that is something that a lot of children are lacking, and it's not their fault. Um, I feel like some of the behaviors and the attitudes and the things that I have learned to deal with, or God has given me the grace to be able to deal with older children. I feel like if they had been introduced, or they had an understanding or a love of God, or just for someone to love them, period, that maybe we would get different reactions. We wouldn't have so many frustrated, angry children about some of the things that's going on in their life that they can't control. Um, and I know for me, even as a young woman, somebody can tell you that they love you, and that they support you, and that they encourage you, and that they care about you. But to have that knowing and that knowledge and that understanding that when people turn their back on you and they fail you, not because they necessarily mean anything by it, but because they're human, God doesn't do that. He's everything about him is it's always and forever. It never stops. It's never ending. And I feel like if we are able to teach children that there is a never ending supply of love and support and encouragement that you can get from your heavenly Father, there's not going to be a whole lot that you're going to be able to tell a child that has that kind of love, or that has that kind of support, has that kind of encouragement. And in those children, um, they operate different, they behave different, they talk different, they treat other children different. And honestly, I throw David under the bus, but he was one of those children. The way that David talked to other kids, the way he was willing to lend a hand, the way that he just interacted with children on a regular day-to-day basis was something that I had never really dealt with in in child care with children, just in general, before. Even when other children were not being the nicest or not being the kindest, he still some way somehow was able to either overlook it or say something kind, or just really respond a lot differently than what children would normally do. And after getting to know him and learning his background, it made a lot of sense. And he's being raised and built in an environment that a lot of children have never seen and probably never will see if it's not ever introduced to them. But I don't know. I feel like if I could get anything done and I can accomplish anything in a child, I would want that as an accomplishment.
Awesome. Praise the Lord. So in a second, I'm gonna give you an opportunity to in as many words, as few or as many words as you feel are necessary, to make a declaration about our children. Um, Completing the sentence, our babies will, and then you offer the declaration of what you believe the Lord is going to be able to do through them. Whether it's one thing or whether it's 50 things, we got a little bit of time. So while you're thinking of those, and while you're preparing yourself for those, I think it is amazing to be able to see how the Lord uses our passions to guide us into our purpose, and just how those things that we love to do, that we often overlook and discount because we may not have what other people have, or we may not feel like we are qualified to be able to do it to the degree and level that we visualize in our minds. How the Lord is very intentional about our plan and our development. When you are serious about your purpose, the Lord has His own school that He takes you through, where He equips you and educates you and develops you and prepares you for the work that He's created you to do. And when you stay focused on that goal and that objective, it's amazing the lives that you can impact, and how the Lord can set you up to be able to serve at an even greater level. The Bible is true. Your gifts certainly do make room for you. But there was a statement posted on the church page, I believe it was yesterday, that said gifts can get you where only your character can keep you. As we allow the Lord, open ourselves up to the Lord exposing and uncovering and developing our gifts, it is equally important that we continue to live our lives in such a way that when our children look at us, they see the same person here that they see at school and at home, because it's that kind of consistency that helps to provide the reassurance for them that this isn't just play, but that this is for real. That the kingdom isn't just within these walls, but the kingdom is within our hearts. And so thank you for sharing your story and some of your background and your experience and your hopes and dreams. And so at this time, you can go ahead and offer your declaration for our children, because our babies will.
Our babies will, with the love of God, I believe that they are going to grow up to be all kinds of amazing leaders in our communities. They are the future. They are the future that's coming ahead of us. And if they are not properly equipped and they're not shown and they're not taught, then they can't create the communities that we desperately need right now. And we're in lack of so many things that I feel like even now children are talking about what could be done and how things could be done, and they're already knowledgeable in those things. So I believe that we continue to show them the love of God, continue to love on them, encourage them, and support them in what it is that they feel like God is calling them to do. We're going to have some amazing leaders to come.
Amen. Well, thank you for your time. Thank you for your commitment to serving our babies here at Church on Purpose. We're excited about new opportunities in the new year, and we're glad to have you aboard. Yeah, thank you. That's an applause moment. So that concludes our conversation for tonight. For those of you that have joined us online, we want to thank you for joining us. At this time, here in the room, we are going to gather in our groups of 3 for our period of reflection, where we will answer the 2 questions that you see on your screen. What stuck out to me the most from the lesson today? Whew, it's hard to think with the music that loud. But what stuck out to me the most from the lesson today, what am I going to do differently this week based on what I heard? And then after everyone in your group has had the opportunity to answer those 2 questions, someone will lead you through the decision questions there at the end, and then we will close out together the way that we close out while we are connecting church. All right. So if you've joined us online, thank you so much. Have a great night. Live each day on purpose. And if you're here. As we come to the conclusion of today's lesson, our hope is that it's been both informative and impactful for you. In addition to coming back and viewing this recording again to increase retention, we also want to encourage you to take an opportunity to reflect.
That's right. Here at Church on Purpose, it's part of our mission to help people understand their faith and live it. And one of the ways we do that is by taking time to reflect after each lesson. You can join us now in a period of reflection by simply clicking on the reflection button below your viewer, where it'll take you to a place where you can fill out some information and answer the same questions that we're going to be answering here in the room. Number 1, what stuck out to you most from today's lesson? And number 2, what do you plan to do differently this week based on what you heard?
Now, if you're watching from somewhere outside of the Omaha metro area, you can stay connected to everything that's happening in Church on Purpose by liking us on Facebook at facebook.com/churchonpurpose, or by visiting our website, www.churchonpurpose.org, where you'll find additional information about the ministry, an archive of past sermons and Bible studies, as well as opportunities to contribute and connect.
If you are in the Omaha metro area, we'd like to extend a personal invitation for you to come and join us on location for either our Sunday Worship and Word at 9:25 a.m. or midweek Worship and Word on Wednesday nights at 6:25 p.m.
We look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, live each day on purpose.